A lot of people think just because you're a nonprofit that you're not a competitive business, but you are.
That's Becker Hall, the CEO and co-founder of Hogs For The Cause, which is not only one of the most popular festivals in New Orleans, Louisiana, but is also a charity that has raised millions of dollars over the years for children battling brain cancer. How did a charity like Becker's get started, and how has it continued to grow and succeed for so many years?
We're going to build the biggest pediatric brain cancer charity.
In this episode, you'll learn about finding your market.
Sometimes there's no market. And a lot of people will go into a crowded market just because they believe in themselves.
Positioning the brand.
We wanted to position ourselves as kicking off festival season in New Orleans.
Creating a vehicle to drive interest.
The easy part is starting the charity. How are you going to tell your story that's going to resonate with people?
And many other great nuggets of wisdom.
I'm probably going to donate to you because I like and I trust you.
Well, I mean, do you like me? Do you trust me? Come on.
I mean, this is only our first date, but...
Welcome to Make Marketing Make Sense. Tell me, what was the story of, what spawned Hogs For The Cause and how it got to be where it is today?
Yeah, it's one of those stories that we try to, what you would call a penny tour and do a quick tour on the origin story.
Nice.
But we've learned that that's impossible. So you're going to get the full dollar.
Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
Buckled in.
So about 16 years ago, well, it actually predates 16 years. Wow. It goes back to when my co-founder, Renee Luop, and I, we were next door neighbors on our house, on our street. And he had two sisters and I had two brothers. So he spent more of his time at our house than he did at his own. So he was like our third brother. And we were bad kids. And we were always getting into trouble and always scheming a lot of different things. There used to be, here in New Orleans, WLAE or PBS had this game show. And you'd spin the wheel and win these prizes. Oh, nice. And we just disguise our voices every day and win every single prize on there and send the older siblings to pick up our prizes. But we had our first
stockpile in the back.
Yeah, just loaded up. I mean, we could go into that on that. So our first endeavor actually was we were kind of creating a league when we were about 10 years old that we thought that maybe we could combat the NFL with. But it was also kind of a power structure against my older brother, Lee, as well. So our first endeavor was called Lee's League.
Lee's League.
And if you go to our office, it has our football cards up there for Lee's League.
Nice.
So, but that was our first endeavor. And then I graduated high school in New Orleans and went to University of South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
And at the University of South Carolina, we were enduring, when I was there, the longest Division I losing streak in football. But we were selling out every single football game. So the tailgate was a big deal.
That was what sold it.
It was amazing. So when we were there, and I still believe it's tradition, is groups, fraternities, all kinds of different clubs get together and they smoke whole hogs before the football game.
Okay.
And that was kind of unique to me, and it was awesome to me because it means I got to stay up starting Friday afternoon and party all the way to the game.
All the way in.
And for me, that was aces. So, it was awesome experience. And when I graduated South Carolina and Renee came back from W&L, I was working in corporate finance investment banking, and he's an attorney, but we were in the same building. So he was clerking and trying to waste time. He'd always come into my office. But he was doing this cool thing at the time where he had the #1 website, not just blog, but this was before all that took off, called blackenedout.com, which was a food blog. And, that's a play on redfish and drinking too much. And I said,
there's a lot of drinking going on.
Yeah, well, that's hogs.
Yeah, that's hogs for you.
It's a marathon of sprints. But, I had been talking to him about doing a pig roast because here we are. This is the middle 2000s and we're in New Orleans, arguably the greatest food city in the world.
Right.
But we had zero barbecue. Little to none.
Saddest thing. I mean,
I think, we had the Joint. And there was a place called Bywater Barbecue. But other than that, it was still like those big chains. I think we still had Corky's around and whatnot.
Oh, wow. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, exactly. But people wanted it. So, from a business perspective, there was a void in the market and there was demand.
Yeah.
So a bell rings to say, hey, let's fill the void there. And I said, let's do a pig roast. I think it'll be a lot of fun. We could do it up on the fly. Beautiful day, beautiful weather. I think people will enjoy that. So he's like, yeah, let's do it. I'll cook the pig. I was like, I'll get the kegs. You do the pig. Let's just invite our friends. Nice. And about a week later, he was like, "Hey, Becker, you remember this guy from our high school?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, he's a sous chef at a local restaurant here. His child was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor called DIPG. And they've been doing a lot of fundraisers. And we both looked at each other and were like, yeah, let's use this pig roast as a fundraiser for that child."
Oh, no way.
So that's kind of how it got started.
Yeah.
Initially.
Right.
And that child, his name was Ben Surratt Jr., he wasn't able to come out to the event, that initial pig roast, because he was on a Disney Make-A-Wish cruise. But we did get to meet him a couple of months later when we had the event.
Yeah.
We had about 200 of our friends come out. We raised $7,500.
Wow.
And we were like, whoa, $7,500.
We did it.
We crushed
we did the
it.
Thing.
Right. And so we went and gave the family the check and met Ben. And that experience to this day was probably one of the most cathartic meetings of our lives. And we walked out of that restaurant and that meeting and said, we're going to build the biggest pediatric brain cancer charity. The number one terminal this is the number one terminal cancer in children, by the way, because of the advances of leukemia in the country. We're going to build the biggest one. And we've done it. We did it pretty quickly.
Wow.
So
talk about ambition.
So then we just started expanding our reach and what we were doing and where we're giving. And, we're making charitable differences all over the country now.
Wow. Talk about a, meteoric rise from just, wanting to have fun all the way to just, realizing that fun can be with a purpose.
Not only that, but hey, man, you could lose 21 games in a row and make a significant difference.
Yeah, that's right. That's wild. Well, I mean, and going into that too, I think what I'm always curious about in what I think is so unique about you guys is how you've positioned the brand. You didn't just make a barbecue event. You didn't just make a nonprofit, but you did something really unique, I feel like. And so, what was it like to build, the brand of what Hogs For A Cause is?
Yeah, there are incremental steps to get it from where it was then to where it is now. And, initially, we didn't set out that first year and go, we're going to build this massive festival. That's the goal.
Right.
We decided to do it again the next year. We were like, look, we can't manage smoking a pig and working on donations and managing everybody there. That kind of comes down to what's your capacity, what's your capabilities. You got to be thinking about those things all the time. So we were like, well, let's introduce a competition and get other people, it's kind of like Tom Sawyer. Let's get somebody else to paint the fence for us.
Okay, yeah.
So, the first year we had about 30 teams come out there to compete in the competition. And part of that element was fundraising.
Gotcha.
And we realized pretty quickly after year 2, we may be onto something here.
Yeah.
And that's when, after year 2, we said, I think we could create a direction of where we want to go. So that third year, we introduced the bands and we're a full-fledged festival. Wow. That's when in our heads we said, okay, we got a differentiated product here. There's a market for what we're doing. Right. Now, to your point of, what's our USP? What's unique about us? Yeah. What are we going to do? And we wanted to position ourselves as kicking off festival season in New Orleans, because there really aren't that many open dates.
Interesting, yeah.
So you have to, it's hard. You got to fight the calendar.
Yeah.
And we're in the spring in New Orleans, and there's so many festivals and school auctions and just travel ball and all these things. Definitely. How are you going to get scale to make this thing really work? And so, owning that weekend was our first. That was our first mark. We said, let's own that spring weekend.
Gotcha. In those first years, you knew automatically that we had to do that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Whatever competition is out there for that weekend, we need to
take it all in and just kick it all out.
Yeah. We got to own this. Yeah. We want to be ubiquitous in marketing during this time.
Wow.
We want to own this weekend. And, it took a couple of years, a few years to do that. And fortunately, we have been able to do that. So that was very important to us from a positioning standpoint. Again, the product was already differentiated. So we had that. It was just making sure that we didn't want to come off after French Quarter Fest or after Jazz Fest, because disposable income and energies are a little bit depleted at that time.
Right.
So we wanted to kind of get you early.
Yeah, get you in there, start the season off right.
fatten you up with some pork and let you cut down for summer.
There we go. Yeah. That's the value add right there. That's the mission statement. I love it.
Yeah.
And so, I think too, when you're talking about that is, tell me too about how do you, I guess like people have always been wanting to give, like how do you position the giving side of it? How do you build that brand too?
That was another reason we wanted, for two parts, the festival. We wanted to create a festival that we would go to,
right?
That was, and we were young. We were younger and mid-20s. So the festivals we were seeing didn't really speak to us yet.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, why not?
Right.
And that's a question I always ask is, why not us?
Yeah.
Why not me?
Right.
Why doesn't something apply to me? If not, let's build it. So it was that. And then charity and fundraising has always been a fairly antiquated model and very traditional in that people have this thought that only an older crowd or an affluent crowd can fundraise. And not only that, a lot of people thought this was a very female-dominated sector.
Oh, really?
Males weren't really the ones that got into fundraising and asking for money. And, a lot of people have attributed one of the secrets to Hogs is that they cracked the code on getting males to fundraise. I mean, that may be true, but it was battling. It wasn't really battling. It was just looking at both of these types of businesses from different, focal points. Right. And, as we talk about, and I always say, and there was a lot of luck involved.
Yeah.
There was beautiful weather the first few years. There was a market that we could position ourselves into.
Right.
Sometimes there's no market.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will go into a crowded market just because they believe in themselves.
Yeah.
Can get you in a lot of trouble.
That's true. That's pretty wild. And I mean, when you're talking about these two things, and I kind of want to, when you said, they have two different focuses, I'm actually kind of curious, what would you say for both sides, what the primary focus is and how you're attacking each focus?
Yeah. It's, I wish we could say that we had one customer. Yeah. And we could just focus in on that customer and really just apply everything to them. But, as a charity that has a festival and not a festival that has a charity,
right.
There's a lot of different patrons and customers for our model. The number one thing we concentrate on the most, and if you haven't been out to Hogs for the Cause, there's 95 teams out there, and they average about 30 people a team. They're building these double-decker, triple-decker, essentially building restaurants for one weekend or houses. Right. It's a massive endeavor. Right. They're doing the fundraising, the cooking, and serving the public. Those are our prime ambassadors, and they're speaking to the market. Hey, donate to me. Come to this event. It's amazing. Come try my food. Those are customer number one to us. We look at the teams and we say, these are so important to us. This is who we want to learn the most about. This is who we want to take care of. This is who we want to take our cues from. They are kind of the coal that makes the train roll. Right. So, that's a bucket right there is the teams. And then there's the patrons of the event. So, we're always thinking about experience and how we can give them the best, our customer of the festival, the best experience and the best value. And we want them to walk out saying, I can't wait for next year. And we want them texting their friends going, you missed it, buddy. Don't do that again. And then there's a straight donor. They may be out of state. They may be in New Orleans. There's a lot of people that don't care for festivals, but they want to support a great cause. So that's, the transparency of what we do on the charitable side is extremely important to us because we want to be able to show donors. That was another thing. When we started the charity, we didn't really like how charities operate. You give a charity money, and then if you really do some 990 rating, which is kind of their tax forms, you'll be like, wow, this thing isn't as great as it seems to be.
Interesting.
And then sometimes you'll give money to someone and you don't ever know where that money goes.
Right.
So we didn't want to be a charity that just gives to another charity. We're like, we want to self-direct everything and vet everything that we do.
Gotcha.
There wasn't enough transparency in charity in the beginning. I think that's changed a lot in the last 15 years. I think charities have gotten much better on that. So those are kind of the three primary buckets of consumers, patrons, donors we look at.
And I would say, because like you've built this great audience, but when I hear what you talked about just now, the big thing to me is the teams, as you're talking about as a primary, but how much buy-in you get from them. How did you build that loyalty? How did you build that buy-in?
Yeah, they're exceptional, but you can't just build it and walk away from it.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of times with, our teams. When we began the fest, and it'd be a little hard to do now, but I would go left, Renee would go right on Friday night, and we'd try to have a beer with every single team in the yard. We still
95 beers, that's a lot of beers.
It's only 42 and a half now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And
you're dividing and conquering.
We're sponsored by Miller High Life, so they're ponies.
Okay. You're like, all right, keep going.
So it's possible.
Okay.
But we try to get it. When you register for Hogs For The Cause, we're going to do our best as execs and a board to get to know if there's 95 teams and 30 people on each team. I'm going to try to know all 4,000 of those people by first name. That's my goal by the festival.
Right.
And if I don't know them by then, I'm going to go, or one of us is going to go find them. It's not just, hi, my name's Becker, I'm with Hogs. Right. It's, I want to get to know you. You know, it's a network, and and like anything, it comes down to your network.
Yeah.
And a lot of charity is networking, and a lot of business is networking. And for us, I want to be able to go to my teams, and I want them to say, I like and I trust him. And when you're out in charity, a lot of times when they're asking for donations, people don't really specifically know what the cause is for. But if you ask me, I'm probably going to donate to you because I like and I trust you.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of everything.
Definitely. Yeah.
Do I like you? Do I trust you?
Well, I mean, do you like me? Do you trust me? Come on.
I mean, this is only our first date, but yeah.
All right, we're working on it. But yeah, so I guess, I know we kind of like talked a little bit about it, but I just want to hone in on it. And like, if you were to be talking to another nonprofit and they're, a lot of them, like you said, are still kind of stuck in some old ways or anything like that, like what would you say to other people looking to like branch out and find audiences and build, something that's fun for their nonprofit? Like, what would you say your advice would be for them?
Yeah, it's difficult. A lot of people think just because you're a nonprofit that you're not a competitive business, but you are. Everybody in business, everybody in charity is competing for somebody's dollar.
Right.
So you have to have a vehicle that's going to, speak to people on a charity side, but you got to create a vehicle that's going to reach people.
Right.
So a lot of times, I'll talk a charity, be like, hey, can you help us with something? I'm sure, just tell me a little bit about you. And there won't be a vehicle. They're like saying, hey, give me the keys to the car, or can you write a check to us? It's how are you going to tell your story that's going to resonate with people? Right. And if the story's not going to resonate with people, I'm not saying create a festival, but you got to think about something that's going to draw people into what you're trying to do.
Right.
So it's the easy part is starting the charity. The hard part is finding the vehicle that's going to, get that charity going forward.
Drive you to the
wherever you're trying
fundraising
to go.
goals.
Right. Yeah,
that's right. Wow. I mean, yeah, incredible. I mean, like that's I think definitely the thing to remember is just like really finding that place to get where you need to go. You need that something. You need that creative, outlet.
It's that too, but it's not just what your charity believes in. It's also as a founder of that charity, what do you believe in? Like at your core, what do you believe in? Because if those two aren't interrelated, you're going to have a hard time driving that vehicle into the future as well.
Right.
Because there's going to come a time when the two of you kind of split.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, my background, as we talked about, I remember when I was younger and I spent a decade or longer in investment banking.
Wow.
And when I was younger, I was going, I just want to make as much money as possible as fast as I can.
It sounds about right for.
And I remember I came out of college at my parents' house after I made the decision to move to New Orleans, and I looked up every single company and who was making the most money in town, via not a private family-held company or something. And I was like, okay. And I charted a path on how I'm going to get there. Well, I got there, and I realized, not quickly, but into the journey, that, yeah, maybe that might be happening, but this isn't what I believe in. I never took the time to, and my mom, she had breast cancer and eventually passed of it for 18 years, but she was an extremely altruistic human being and embodied a lot of giving versus getting. And I was doing all this kind of, I spent a lot of time on airplanes, and I was building out Hogs, and I remember thinking, it's like Zoolander, like, who am I? And I found out, like, what I believe in too is what she's instilled in me was, I think I prefer giving more than getting. So the charity was more aligned, and I was like, I think building this is more relatable to me.
Wow.
So maybe it's a charity, maybe it's a company, but what do you stand for and what do you believe in? Because you got to align those two to really get you going wherever you're going.
Right. I mean, that's really well said. I couldn't said it better myself, and I'd dive in even deeper.
Well, cut me, and then you say it, and I'll be like, that's
also,
great.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there we go. No, it's not about me. It's about you. But
thank you.
Instead,
first time
what we'll do. Oh, really? Well, then, come on.
Having a household
come on.
of
Here,
girls.
take a moment and just share with the world. At this point, we're going to cut it to a close. And so just give everyone where you're going to find you and where they're going to find Hogs for the Cause on socials and online.
Yeah. We make it very difficult for you because we actually have two websites.
Oh.
You can get to both of them at www.hogsforthecause.org.
Okay.
We do have a festival-only website at hogsfest.org.
Oh,
but you can get to both of them. Hogsforthecause.org will guide you to both, but it has a lot of what we do as a charity, and then we kind of bifurcate the festival on another site. But you can find me there, and I always welcome inbounds if anybody has any questions. I think what's really important, and I say this all the time, is stay curious. I'm still curious. There's people I wish that would mentor me as a 45-year-old in areas, as we were talking about, coding. I don't know much about coding.
Right.
I'd love to learn more about it. So
we'll get you a guy. Don't worry.
Yeah. So if you do have something
if you're a coder out there, Becker's waiting for your call.
But yeah, if you ever have a question, I try to remain as open as possible. Being able to help others is what pushes us forward.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Well, perfect. You know where to find them. Thank you so much, Becker, for joining me, and we'll see you all in the next Make Marketing Make Sense. Take it easy, y'all. This has been Make Marketing Make Sense, brought to you by Comfystone. If you need video content for social media, your website, or email marketing, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.